I never thought a whisper could shatter a marriage like a gunshot. But that's exactly what Evelyn's words did to mine, right before Richard's hand cracked across my face. The slap echoed off the stainless steel appliances in our McMansion kitchen. A sound so sharp it drowned out the hum of the Sub-Zero fridge we'd splurged on during our happiest year. Blood trickled from my split lip, warm and metallic. But the real wound was deeper. The realization that the man I'd built a life within this cookie-cutter hellhole of Chevy Chase, Maryland, believed his mother over me. Again. And in that frozen moment, as his eyes flickered with regret, he wouldn't voice. I decided, no more playing the dutiful daughter-in-law. I'd burn it all down, starting with the truth he'd buried under layers of denial and dollar signs. It started 6 months earlier, back when the autumn leaves in Rock Creek Park were turning that fiery red that always made me think of warning signs. Richard and I had been married 7 years, long enough for the honeymoon phase to curdle into routine, but not so long that the resentment had fully set in. He was a rising star at Deloitte, pulling in mid-six figures consulting for Beltway bandits, the kind of guys who turned government contracts into personal piggy banks. I was Stella Hargrove, well, Stella Whitmore now, though I'd fought tooth and nail to keep my maiden name, running a small graphic design firm from our home office, scraping by on freelance gigs for nonprofits that paid in exposure and empty praise. We had the American dream facade, the colonial with the wraparound porch, the Tesla in the garage, weekend barbecues where we'd nod along to Fox News rants from his golf buddies. But underneath, cracks wider than the Potomac. Evelyn Whitmore was the architect of those cracks. Richard's mother, the iron-fisted widow of a D.C. lobbyist who'd clawed his way to the top before keeling over from a stress-induced heart attack. She lived in a Georgetown brownstone that screamed old money, think brass knockers and crystal decanters, and she treated me like the help who'd gotten above her station. Darling, not everyone can handle the Whitmore legacy, she'd say with that saccharine smile, her Botox-frozen face barely twitching. Legacy. As if schmoozing senators for kickbacks was some noble bloodline. But Evelyn held the purse strings, Richard's inheritance, the family trust that kept our lifestyle afloat. And she hated me because I wouldn't bend. I pushed back when she meddled, like the time I refused her suggestion to quit my business and pop out heirs like factory widgets. The betrayal hit on a Tuesday, the kind of gray November day where the sky presses down like a hangover. Richard came home early, his Brooks Brothers tie loosened, face pale as uncooked dough. Stella, we need to talk. Those 4 words are the death knell in any marriage. But this was worse. He dropped a folder on the kitchen island, printouts from our joint accounts, emails I'd never sent, transactions rerouted to offshore shells. Embezzlement. 200 grand siphoned from his firm's slush fund, funneled through my business's EIN. My name was all over it, stamped like a scarlet letter. What the hell is this? I snatched the papers, heart slamming against my ribs. Forged signatures. My logo doctored onto bogus invoices. It was surgical, the kind of frame job that screamed insider. Richard wouldn't meet my eyes. The feds are involved. Auditors flagged it this morning.
Mom.
She warned me you'd been acting strange, staying up late on your computer. Evelyn. Of course. She'd been sniffing around my books for months. Ever since I turned down her loan to expand my firm, money with strings attached, like handing over creative control. But this was nuclear. I'd taken the fall once before. Years ago, when Richard's harmless, insider tip on a merger blew up in his face. I'd confessed to the SEC probe, claimed it was my idea, Spent 6 months on probation while he got a slap on the wrist and a promotion. For us, he'd begged. To protect the family. I'd done it because I loved him. Or thought I did, the wide-eyed girl from Roanoke who'd traded Milltown grit for DC glamour. But this time, no way. I didn't do this. Richard. You know me. My voice cracked, but I held his gaze, searching for the man who'd proposed on the National Mall at cherry blossom time. He rubbed his temples, the way he did when closing a deal gone south. Stella. The evidence. It's ironclad. Mom said you've been resentful.
Talking about leaving.
Is it the money? We can fix this quietly. But you have to come clean. Resentful? I'd poured my soul into us. Nights editing his pitch decks. Holidays hosting her acid-tongued family, but sure. Paint me as the gold digger. The secret gnawed at me. That first frame job wasn't just a tip. It was Richard's full-blown Ponzi light. Skimming from clients who'd trusted him with their retirements. I'd covered for him because the alternative was watching him crash. And in my naive heart, that meant us crashing too. But Evelyn knew. She'd orchestrated the first one, whispering doubts until I stepped up, then holding it over me like a guillotine.
By dawn.
The cops were at our door, suburban blues with warrants from the U.S. Attorney's office. Richard stood aside as they cuffed me, his face a mask of sorrow that didn't reach his eyes. It's for the best.
Stell.
We'll get through this. Evelyn arrived like a vulture in pearls, her Mercedes idling curbside. Poor dear, she cooed as they marched me to the cruiser. Sometimes, the truth sets you free. Jail was a blur of fluorescent hell, the D.C. Central Detention Facility, where echoes of screams bounced off cinderblock walls and the air smelled of bleach and despair. Arraigned on federal fraud, I lawyered up with a public defender who looked like he'd rather be golfing. Bail was denied, flight risk, they said, thanks to a one-way ticket to nowhere in my fake emails. Evelyn's doing, no doubt. She visited once, through plexiglass, her voice syrupy over the intercom. Richard's devastated.
Stella.
But this is what happens when you play with fire. I press my palm to the glass, imagining it around her throat. You set this up. You witch. For what? To keep him under your thumb? She laughed, a tinkling sound like breaking china. Darling, I protect what's mine. You've been a thorn since day one.
Now.
Sign the plea. And maybe I'll pull strings for leniency. Protection. Yeah.
Right.
Evelyn's empire was built on Whitmore Sr.'s dirt, lobbying bribes. Backroom deals that greased the wheels for defense contractors. She'd buried his sins. And now she'd bury mine to keep Richard compliant. Her golden boy puppet. Released on a technicality after 3 weeks, some chain of custody bullshit my PD exploited, I came home to an empty house. Richard had decamped to Evelyn's, citing space to process. The locks were changed, my key didn't work. I sat on the porch steps, rain soaking through my thrift store coat, and plotted. Revenge wasn't a word I used lightly. Southern girls like me were raised on grace and grit, but this betrayal cut to the marrow. They'd stolen my life, my name, my future. And the secret? It wasn't just Richard's crime I'd shouldered. It was Evelyn's too. Years back, she'd funneled dirty money through my fledgling firm to launder it, backdating contracts when I was too green to notice. I'd discovered it during tax season, confronted her, and she'd gaslit me into silence. And Richard loses everything. Including you. That night, after the rain stopped, I broke in through the basement window, the one Richard always bitched about being too flimsy. Our bedroom was a time capsule of better days, my side untouched, his half stripped to basics. In his nightstand, buried under condom wrappers and golf tees, was the USB drive. The real evidence. Backups of the original transactions. Untainted. With Evelyn's fingerprints all over them. IP logs from her brownstone. Emails signed EW. I'd copied them ages ago. Paranoid, even then. But never used them.
Now?
They were my Excalibur. But revenge needs more than files. It needs leverage. I drove to a dive bar in Anacostia. The kind where ex-cops nurse whiskeys and swap war stories. There, I met Tommy Ruiz, a PI with a nose like a bloodhound and ethics flexible as a yoga instructor. I need dirt on Evelyn Whitmore, I said, sliding the USB across the scarred formica. The kind that sticks. He quoted me $5,000, steep, but I pawned my engagement ring for it. No ring. No regrets. Tommy delivered in fragments. Evelyn's affair with a senator 20 years her junior. Payoffs to silence a whistleblower on her late husband's scandals. And the kicker, a hidden clause in the family trust that disinherited any undesirables, code for me. But the real bomb? She'd been grooming Richard for years. Not just as heir, but as patsy. The embezzlement? Her scheme to test his loyalty. Framing me as the fall guy to see if he'd choose blood over bride. Armed with this, I could have gone public, leaked to the Post, watched her empire crumble from afar. But that's too clean, too detached. No, I wanted them to feel it, up close and personal. The controversial part? I'd make them question their sanity, their bonds, before the knife fell. Decisions like that, they're what separate the broken from the vengeful. And me, I was done being broken. Weeks blurred into a haze of stakeouts and sleep deprivation. I tailed Evelyn to her Pilates classes in Foggy Bottom, noting how she sipped green juices while texting Richard updates on my recovery. I hacked Richard's phone, Tommy's cousin, a sketchy IT guy in Arlington, reading their heart-to-hearts. She's unstable.
Son.
Let her go. Him. I know.
Mom.
It's killing me.
Lies.
He'd already lawyered up for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences and my instability. The slap came on Christmas Eve. The irony thick as eggnog. I'd forced a reconciliation dinner at home, turkey thawing on the counter, lights twinkling on the Fraser for I'd dragged in solo. Richard showed, wary as a cat in a room full of rockers, Evelyn trailing like a shadow in cashmere. We ate in silence, the good china clinking like accusations. Then, over pie, she leaned in, her whisper slithering across the table. Richard, darling, remember what I told you about her episodes? The one where she threatened to ruin us all? His fork clattered. Eyes on me. Wild now. Stella, is it true? The threats Tommy mentioned.
Tommy?
My PI? Betrayal squared. She'd bought him off. Or worse. Rage boiled up. But I played cool. Ask your mother about her episodes. Richard. The ones with senators and suitcases of cash. Evelyn's smile faltered. She whispered again.
Urgent?
Her hand on his.
Lies.
No doubt, painting me as the unhinged one. And then, the slap. His palm connected with my cheek, the force snapping my head sideways.
Pie splattered.
Don't you dare drag Mom into your delusions. Delusions. The word ignited something primal. I touched my swelling face, tasting copper, and laughed a low, broken sound that filled the room. Watch the footage, Richard. Then tell me who's delusional. He froze. The Ring camera, our half-assed security system. More for show than safety. I'd rigged it weeks ago. Looping feeds to capture every whisper, every glance. But this was live. As he fumbled for his phone, pulling up the app, Evelyn's face drained of color. The video played, not just a night slap, but spliced clips, her midnight visits to our safe, rifling through drawers, her on a burner phone, ordering Tommy to fabricate reports, and the crown jewel, a hidden cam in her brownstone study. Audio crystal. Frame the bitch. Richard. Make her the villain. It's the only way he'll see. His jaw unhinged.
Mom.
What the fuck? She stammered. Pearls clutched like a lifeline. It's not, darling. She's twisting it. Deep fakes. Hacks. But the evidence mounted. Timestamps ironclad. Richard staggered back. Chair toppling. The king of his castle dethroned in one viral clip. I stood, cheek throbbing, voice steady as steel. Merry Christmas. Family. Now get out. They left in a flurry, Evelyn hissing threats. Richard mute as a ghost. Alone, I poured bourbon, Maker's Mark, the good stuff, and toasted the wreckage. Revenge tasted sweet, but incomplete. The twist was coming, the one that would flip the board. Because what they didn't know, the body swap was a metaphor. It started that night, as fever gripped me from the slap's hidden bruise, a microtear. Doctors later said, but I knew better. Evelyn's whispered curse from her Wiccan phase. Or just cosmic payback. Woke up in her skin, staring at my own face in her gilded mirror. Stella in Evelyn's body. Evelyn trapped in mine. The ultimate reversal. The mirror in Evelyn's powder room was antique. All ornate gold and warped glass. The kind that made your reflection look like a faded daguerreotype. But when I blinked awake that Christmas morning, head pounding like a jackhammer on concrete, it wasn't my hazel eyes staring back. It was hers, ice blue, framed by crow's feet she'd lashed with lasers. Now wide with someone else's horror. My hands, her hands, trembled as they touched the sagging jowls. The liver spots I'd mocked in whispers. What the actual fuck? The voice was mine. Rough-edged Virginia drawl. Trapped in her vocal cords. I gagged. The sound echoing off marble vanity like a bad ventriloquist act. Panic clawed up my throat, but I swallowed it down with black coffee from her Nespresso, single-origin Ethiopian. Because, of course. This wasn't a dream. The ache in her knees from years of Louboutins confirmed it. Somehow, impossibly, we'd swapped. Bodies. Essences. The whole 9 yards. Sci-fi bullshit in a world of quantum weirdness? Maybe a psychosomatic break from the stress. But no, the details were too sharp. I could feel her arthritis flaring. Taste the mints she popped for halitosis. And when I stumbled to the full length in her bedroom, stripping down to silk la perla that chafed like sandpaper, the proof was undeniable. Stella's lithe runner's build, now inhabited by Evelyn's fury. I didn't call 911. No shrinks. No exorcists. This was opportunity, gift wrapped in karmic irony. Evelyn in my body. She'd wake up in the guest room I'd commandeered, puking from the cheap bourbon I'd chased with regret. Let her flail in my skin, the stretch marks from that miscarriage we never talked about. The tattoo on my hip she'd called trashy. I'd use this to dismantle her from the inside, make her watch her world implode while wearing my face. Controversial? Hell yes, impersonation. Fraud. Maybe assault if I got rough. But ethics are luxury goods. And I'd been evicted from that mall long ago. First, reconnaissance. Evelyn's brownstone was a fortress of faded glory, Persian rugs threadbare underfoot, walls lined with oil portraits of Whitmores who'd probably owned slaves. Her office, dark walnut desk, leather wingback, held the vault. Combination from Tommy's dirt, her and Richard's birthdates. Inside, ledgers, encrypted drives, the skeleton key to decades of grift. I scanned them on her iMac, heart racing as PDF spat out bribes to EPA officials for polluting clients, hush money to a mistress who'd OD'd suspiciously. Evelyn wasn't just complicit, she was the conductor. Her late husband the frontman.
And Richard?
Groomed from college, dipping toes, then diving headfirst. By noon, her phone buzzed. Richard.
Mom?
Where are you? After last night. We need to talk. His voice cracked, the golden boy cracking under pressure. I channeled her frost. At home.
Dear.
Your harpy wife's probably halfway to Mexico by now. A probe. Testing waters. He sighed. The footage. It's bad.
Mom.
If it's real, we're fucked. I called my guy at the DOJ. Language. Richard. I paced, heels clicking like metronome ticks. We'll handle it.
Deny. Deflect.
She's unstable. We paint her as the liar. Inside, I seethed, my husband, bargaining my ruin like a plea deal. But this was gold. Access to his fears. His fractures. Evelyn's day unfolded like a bad spy novel. I lunched at Cafe Milano, her standing res, arugula salad no dressing, overhearing whispers from Botox socialites about that Whitmore mess. News was leaking. Some hack at Walpo had the slap video. Anonymized but viral on Reddit's r/public freakout. Comments scorched. MILF from hell. Hubby's a spineless prick. I smirked into my Pellegrino. Toasting invisible ghosts. Afternoon. Her charity board meeting at the Four Seasons. All pearl-clutching widows doling out crumbs to soup kitchens while hiding Cayman accounts. I sat at the head, voice dripping Evelyn's condescension. Ladies. Efficiency over empathy this quarter. They nodded like bobbleheads. But I slipped in barbs, hints at irregularities in the treasurer's books. Eyes on Evelyn's pet crony. Seeds of doubt. The slow poison. Evening brought the real test. Richard arrived at the brownstone.
Hollow-eyed.
Clutching a bottle of Glenfiddich like a talisman. We sat in the parlor, velvet settee. Crystal decanters glinting firelight, and he unloaded. Stella's gone dark. No calls. No texts. And Mom. The audio. How could you? Tears tracked his cheeks. The boy I'd fallen for peeking through the facade. I leaned in. Her perfume, Chanel no. 5. Cloying, wafting like accusation. Darling. She forged it. Deepfake techs everywhere now. Remember that trial last year? Inoculated her resentment. That's all. Lies flowed easy in her timbre. But my gut twisted. This was my husband. Broken by the woman who'd birthed him. Controversial decision 1. Let him drown a bit longer. Push too soon. And he'd bolt to therapy or worse. Truth. He bought it. Mostly clinked glasses. Scotch burning down. What do we do? Desperation. Ripe for harvest. Nothing rash. I'll call my contacts at Deloitte, quiet inquiries. If she's fleeing, we press charges. His relief was palpable.
A drug.
But as he hugged me, awkward, stiff, I felt the fracture deepen. That night, alone in her four-poster, I wept, not for him, but the girl who'd believed in forever. Revenge was clarifying, but it hollowed you out. Meanwhile, Evelyn in my body, chaos. Texts from Tommy, confused. Stella, you okay? Ladies got me spooked. I ignored, letting her stew. She'd wake in my apartment, sublet, after the lockout. Threadbare, but mine, fumbling keys with my calloused hands, staring at my reflection like an alien. Panic calls to Richard? Straight to voicemail. Courtesy of my blocks. She'd pound pavement, begging cabs in yoga pants, realizing the swap when my ID didn't match the face. Horror. Isolation. My gift to her. Day 2 dawned with headlines. DC. Power mom in embezzlement probe. Walpo teaser. Sourced anonymously, me. From a VPN in her home office. Stock in Whitmore-linked firms dipped. Richard's boss called. Tense chat pending. I played Evelyn to perfection, poised at brunch with her DAR chapter. Dropping veiled warnings. Standards must be upheld, even in trying times. But crack showed. Her body rebelled. Hot flashes I'd laughed off now drenching silk blouses, joints screaming from my ungentle prowl. And the dreams, flashes of my life bleeding through, like static on an old TV. Me running them all at dawn. Richard's laugh echoing. Her memories too, a young Evelyn, clawing from secretarial pool to boardrooms. Wedding Richard Sr. For the latter, not the love. Empathy flickered. Unwelcome. Was she forged in the same fire? Betrayals by men who saw her as accessory?
No.
Excuses don't erase sins. Richard cornered me that afternoon. Post-golf with buddies who'd smelled blood.
Mom.
The board circling. They want audits on the trust. Sweat beaded his forehead. Armani's shirt rumpled. I poured tea, her chamomile blend, soothing as cyanide. Let them sniff. Nothing there but clean ledgers. Lie too. I'd emailed tips to the IRS, attachments from the vault. Controversial? Absolutely. Unleashing the feds on family, even toxic ones. But justice isn't polite, it's a bulldozer. He paced, bourbon breath hot. And Stella? If she talks, she won't. I touched his arm, her manicured nails digging subtle. She's cornered, darling. Like a rat. His flinch was delicious. The first real doubt. Night fell with a storm. Thunder rattling Georgetown's gas lamps. I slipped out, cashmere coat flapping, to my old life. The apartment reeked of takeout, lo mein from last week's binge, but there she was, Evelyn in my frame, curled on the futon, eyes feral. She bolted up, my voice hers, shrill.
Cracked.
What sorcery is this? Fix it, you whore. I smiled, her lips stretching wrong. Sorcery? Call it payback. Evelyn. You whispered poison, now taste it. She lunged, fists flailing my fists, surprisingly weak without her Pilates tone. We grappled, crashing into IKEA shelves, books tumbling like accusations. You stole my son, she spat, nails raking her arm. Your son chose chains. I pinned her, breath ragged. The frame jobs, the secrets, I carried them for him.
For you.
No more. Her eyes, my eyes, widened, realization dawning. The swap.
How?
Doesn't matter. Tomorrow, Richard gets the full show. You in my skin. Confessing on cam.
Bluff.
But her terror fed it. Controversial decision too. Expose the swap? Madness. Institutionalization for us both. But let her believe. Let fear fester. She deflated, sobbing my tears.
Please.
I did it for him.
His father. He was weak.
I made us strong. Strong like a parasite, I released her, standing tall in her stature. Sleep tight.
Stella.
We've got a family reunion brewing. Back in the brownstone. Sleep evaded, her insomnia.
Chronic.
Dawn brought the call. Richard. Frantic.
Mom.
Stella's here, says she's you. Ranting about bodies. Revenge. Cops are coming. The climax brewed. Pot set to boil. Time to flip the script. Watch them scald. The Georgetown brownstone felt like a tomb that New Year's Eve morning, cold marble floors sucking warmth from my bare feet. The air heavy with the scent of Evelyn's lavender sachets. I'd barely slept. Her body a stranger's cage, hips wider than I remembered. Bladder insistent at 4 a.m. But adrenaline coursed purer than any espresso, sharpening the edges of what was to come. Richard's call had been the starter pistol. Now, the race to Armageddon. I'd texted him coordinates, a neutral spot, the Lincoln Memorial, where tourists milled like oblivious extras and the reflecting pool mirrored our fractured reflections. Come alone, I typed from her phone. Or the truth goes viral. He arrived rumpled. Overcoat askew. Eyes bloodshot from whatever pills he'd popped to chase the scotch. Evelyn trailed in my body, dragged by sheer spite, hair matted. My favorite jeans ripped at the knee from her frantic scrabble. Cops? Bluff. I'd coached her. Play along. Or I'd leak the vault files to every outlet from Politico to TMZ. She glared daggers, my daggers, from behind oversized sunglasses, but complied. The queen dethroned. Stella. Richard's voice cracked like thin ice, scanning us both. Wind whipped off the Potomac, carrying distant carols from the national Christmas tree lighting. Irony, celebrating rebirth amid ruin. I stepped forward, Evelyn's brogues crunching gravel.
No.
Richard. It's me. Your mother. Pause for effect. Let confusion bloom. He blinked, brain buffering the impossible. The woman in my skin snorted. My twang hers. Lies. She's the imposter.
Son.
That which did this, swapped us like some voodoo shit. Tourists glanced. Phones half-raised, DC. Drama was street theater here. I pressed on. Voice her velvet venom. Ask her about the ledgers. Darling. The ones with your father's payoffs to Congressman Hale. Or the gift to your college fund, laundered through Stella's firm. His face crumpled. Puzzle pieces slotting.
Mom.
You said it was clean. The trust. Evelyn and me lunged. Fists balled. Shut your mouth. You bitch. I built this. I sidestepped, her momentum carrying her into a jogger who yelped. Richard grabbed her, me, restraining with dawning horror. Stella? What the hell happened to you? His touch on my arm, her arm, sent revulsion spiking. This man, who'd slapped my face, now cradling the shell I'd shed. She wrenched free,
sobbing.
It's not her. Listen, Richard. Baby. It's Mom. She poisoned me.
Or.
or hacked our brains or something. Hysteria pitched high, drawing a small crowd. A park ranger eyed us warily. Radio crackling. Time for the hook. I pulled out her phone, unlocked with her thumbprint, and hit play. Not the slap footage, but a montage I'd edited overnight. Evelyn's confessions from the hidden cam, intercut with my voiceover.
Calm as a TED Talk.
You framed me twice, Evelyn. Once for your husband's sins, once for your son's. I took the fall because I loved him. You wielded it like a whip. The audio hit, her voice. Tinny but damning. Frame the bitch. Make her the villain. Gasps from onlookers. Phones now fully out. Live streaming our tableau. Richard staggered. Hand to mouth. This can't.
Mom.
Tell me it's fake. She clawed at him. My nails breaking on his coat. It is. Deep fake. Like I said, she's ruining us. But the twist landed like a gut punch. The reversal I'd orchestrated in fevered code. Not the swap, that stayed our secret. A psych ward ticket we'd burn together.
No.
The real flip. Me. In her skin. Dropping the bomb. Ask her about the baby. Richard. His head snapped. What baby? Evelyn froze. My face paling to chalk. The secret I'd unearthed from her diaries. Yellowed pages in the attic trunk. 30 years ago. Pre-Richard. She'd birthed a daughter, given up closed adoption after Whitmore Sr. Deemed it embarrassing. The girl, raised in foster hell. Now a mid-level clerk at the DOJ. The very office circling their corruption. I'd contacted her, Lila. Tough as nails. With Evelyn's blue eyes, weeks back. Dangling truth for testimony. You had a sister? Richard whispered. Betrayal compounding. And you hit her? Use Stella to cover your tracks. Evelyn crumpled. Knees buckling on the monument steps. For you,
Darling.
to protect. Protect. My laugh, her laugh, rang hollow. You devoured everyone. Including me. Sirens wailed distant. Someone's 911. Good Samaritan syndrome. Richard backed away. Eyes darting between us. The man who'd always chosen safety now adrift. I need time. He fled. Coat flapping. Toward the metro. Leaving us in the wind-whipped spectacle. Cops arrived minutes later. Metro PD. Bored with holiday duty. Ma'ams? Everything all right? I played Evelyn to the hilt. Flustered socialite. My daughter-in-law's unwell. Stress. You know. They bought it. Mostly, Evelyn and me ranted about swaps until they eyed sedation. Cuff loose for public disturbance. We rode in separate cruisers. Heard a psych eval at GW Hospital. Me to the brownstone for observation. The climax peaked that night. Alone in her study. Vault open like a gutted fish. I uploaded everything. Ledgers to WikiLeaks mirrors. Confession vid to anonymous drops. By midnight, feeds exploded. Whitmore scandal. Matriarch's empire crumbles. Richard's text bombarded. Is it true? Call me. I ghosted, letting silence scream. But revenge's aftertaste is ash. Dawn brought the swap's ebb, waking in my body. Evelyn's ghost fled or dormant. Text from Lila, saw the news. Coffee. A bridge. Maybe. To something unpoisoned. Richard? Filed for annulment by noon. Citing irreconcilable realities. Evelyn? Indicted on racketeering. Out on bail, but caged in regret. Her brownstone seized. Ending? Debatable as a jury verdict. I walked free, charges dropped, my name cleared in the fallout. But the slap's scar lingers. A purple reminder on my cheek.
Happy?
In fragments, new firm. Lila's awkward lunches. Therapy unpacking the wreckage. Tragic? The love I buried with that USB. The family facade forever cracked. Readers argue, was the swap justice or madness? Did I destroy or liberate?
Me?
I stare at the reflecting pool sometimes, seeing not distortion,
But depth.
and whisper to the wind, your move.